There was something really definitive about January 6th. The belief among so many of these people was like, this was the last stand, this was the climactic end, that if they didn't fight now, they would never be able to fight. So many of the lawmakers were in the Capitol. Trump was, down the road calling on them to stand up for their rights.
We will never give up. We will never concede. It doesn't happen. You don't concede when there's theft involved.
And, these people had come in from out of town. They had been talking about this, thinking about this for a long time. They had been organizing on Facebook. They had been organizing on Parler and Gab and Twitter. And they really kind of believed that this was going to be the day when everything would change. And so they wanted to be there for it.
And we are going to fight like hell against the tyrannical Democrats and any Republicans who do deals with them. It will be your peril if you underestimate this movement again.
And Trump was fueling this directly. He was saying, like, be there, we'll be wild.
We've had it, and this was our time. And when Trump said, come to Washington, D.C., it's going to be wild, we felt like we had to come. So here we are.
And we fight. We fight like hell. And if you don't fight like hell, you're not going to have a country anymore.
He was encouraging people and stirring this anger up, and had been stirring it up for weeks, if not months. Even before the election, he had been saying that this was going to be a stolen vote.
Because the only way we're going to lose this election is if the election is rigged. Remember that.
They were echoing what Trump was saying. They were echoing what all of the big sort of right-wing influencer provocateurs have been calling on them to do.
So it becomes a question of if you don't call out the first lie.
Donald Trump is falsely claiming he only lost the popular vote because millions voted illegally for Hillary Clinton.
And you don't call out the second line.
This was the largest audience to ever witness an inauguration, period.
You don't call out the 30,000th lie.
This is going to go away without a vaccine. It's going to go away, and we're not going to see it again.
How effective is it when you call out the lie about the election being stolen by Joe Biden? Or is it too late by then? The president laid the groundwork for the public to believe his mistruths on any number of statements by sort of constantly, over the course of his presidency and his candidacy, eroding sort of the fundamental institutions of democracy so that there were no arbiters of truth, right? The media is now the fake news.
I think it's very clear that there are people in your profession that write fake news. You do. She does.
He even undermines other pillars of democracy, of his own administration, right? The intelligence community that comes up with findings that he doesn't like or are negative for him are the deep state.
Unelected deep state operatives who defy the voters to push their own secret agendas are truly a threat to democracy itself.
At one point we decided he had said so many false things about so many topics. We kind of wanted to do almost like a forensic analysis of how something goes from, Donald Trump's mouth and Twitter feed, to the public's ears to sort of being accepted as fact. One mistruth he repeated was that he got VA accountability done.
We passed VA choice and VA accountability for our veterans. Nobody thought that could be done.
And Donald Trump would refer to this act that was literally named after John McCain and signed by President Obama. And he would say, totally earnestly,
McCain didn't get the job done for our great vets and the VA.
So at a certain point, the president began operating with impunity because there were so few people willing to push back on him. And, sort of one Republican every now and then on a particular issue would kind of pop up and say, this doesn't feel right, that language isn't acceptable, this is the wrong thing on foreign policy. And he would just sort of like bat them down with a devastating tweet or an insult or whatever it was. And it did seem to have a chilling effect.
Well, I didn't see the tweet.
I didn't see it.
You think I'm going to sit here and comment on the daily tweets? I'm just not going to be doing that.
It was really rare to have a president who had this direct line into all of our brains via our phones by having this Twitter account. And, President Trump used to great effect the sort of daily, almost hourly tweets sometimes to shape the narrative.
The way he wielded Twitter as a megaphone and a shield and a weapon, and very authentically. Say what you will about those tweets, but they were very authentic glimpses into what the president was thinking at any given moment.
The internet has always been a place where disinformation has reigned, and people like President Trump and the provocateurs that have backed him have built these huge networks of millions of followers. They have learned to use the tools like Facebook and like Twitter and YouTube that algorithmically push their content to their audiences. A lot of those same online messages were being echoed in the real world. And so these falsehoods and conspiracy theories that people had been spending their days immersed in online were then playing out in real time at the Capitol to, just a devastating degree. In the days before the January 6th rally, there was a ton of just belligerent, crazy threats of violence on these pro-Trump sites online. There was a lot of a fear from sort of law enforcement and these extremism researchers who were saying, like, January 6th is going to be bad. Like, there are a lot of people coming into town. They're really pissed off. They're really stirred up. Many of them were sort of believers in QAnon, this extremist ideology that has always been calling for sort of like a government overthrow and to, hang their political enemies. President Trump was in that set of people who were pushing Q forward because it was beneficial for him.
Well, I don't know much about the movement other than I understand they like me very much, which I appreciate, but I don't know much about the movement.
It was hard to believe that he didn't know anything about them because he was sharing the same messages that they have said for themselves in defense.
I know nothing about it. I do know they are very much against pedophilia. They fight it very hard, but I know nothing about it.
They believe it is
if
a
you'd like me
satanic cult run by the deep
study
state.
the subject, I'll tell you what I do know about
The president is someone who has always been drawn to conspiracy theories, right? And had at least an openness to them. And, there's always the tension between sort of these more fringe people and the quote unquote adults in the room or the professionals who always claimed they were there, not because they condoned everything he did or said, but because they were acting as guardrails. And at a certain point, these sort of quote unquote adults in the room and the reputable lawyers increasingly realized there was no path to victory and grew increasingly uncomfortable doing what Donald Trump wanted them to do, which is go out on TV and make these false and baseless claims. And so he very much found himself surrounded by the fringe, and they were the only people who were willing to do his bidding by the very end.
Let's have trial by combat.
This election was rigged, and the Supreme Court and other courts didn't want to do anything about it.
Disinformation can corrupt everything. It can affect public health. It can affect politics. It can affect our media and our schools and our education. I think it has such a corrosive impact on pretty much anything it touches, and it's so hard to stop.